based on what you know now, as opposed to when you first got your concealed weapons permit, how prepared would you say you actually were? Hey everybody, welcome to Whiskey, Lead, and Steel, Feelings Hurt While You Wait, the official podcast of Aggressive Defensive Solutions. I'm Rick Sutton, and joining me today here at the shop is our good friend Sam Long.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks for coming out and
Yes, sir.
spending a little time with us.
Glad to be here.
Cool. So Sam, you've been shooting with us for a while, and you're a hunter and an aficionado of a great many cool, manly things, brown liquor and cigars, and
Yes,
a
sir.
pilot.
Yes, sir.
You run a couple of fairly successful businesses. So first and foremost, what brought you into shooting? What got you into shooting, and what kind of shooting do you like to do?
Yeah, I grew up on a farm. Lots of hunting, introduced to guns very early on. Good story about my dad's 10-gauge double barrel when I was about 8. But always figured that's what I needed to know, this, that, and the other. Moved away from the farm after a while, came into what I call the city.
Mm-hmm.
And, there wasn't much call for 12-gauge buckshot outside the house. And
unless, of course, you're Joe Biden.
Well, okay, yeah, sorry. Two shots out the window, and that'll take care of your problems.
There you
go. Lord. So obviously, I started to give a little more thought to carrying on a regular basis. Because carrying where I grew up was the 12 gauge in the back seat, and now it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So looking in the magazines and doing different things, I think we'll shout out Firearms Performance Enhancements. I took a shotgun over to Mike Brini over there, and he told me to come see you.
Oh, wow.
And here we are.
Cool.
But
that's been a couple of years now, hasn't it?
It's been a couple of years. Yeah. But you remember when I got here, like I okay, I have a pistol, I'm good. And turns out that's not super true. But why are we carrying? I'm carrying because I got kids, and I'm carrying because
excuse me.
I also know first aid.
Yeah, there was a bone in my coffee apparently. Hate that.
So started carrying really because I've got my kids and my family to think about. I don't know who's around me, and I don't know what's going on. And statistically, I'm more likely to get into something in this setting versus out there by myself in the woods.
Yeah.
So the idea is to be prepared to defend myself and my family, and generally be a good citizen in that regard.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So touching on that, because this is one of the things that happens a lot. We see this a good bit, and it's often sounds self-serving. We're a firearms training company for the most part, and we go, oh, people need to get more training. The reality of it is, and if you would expand, based on what you know now, as opposed to when you first got your concealed weapons permit, how prepared would you say you actually were when you first got your concealed weapons permit?
I would say that not that I'm where I need to be by any means. It's still got a long way to go, but I'd say I'm light years from where I was. Yeah. And not just on the ability, being able to put lead on steel. It's more of the concepts behind it, the thought process behind it. Do I actually understand what I'm doing, what I'm undertaking? Do I understand the rules, the laws? A lot of our training, and this is your program, right? But a lot of our training's been focused on that. I'd say the preparation has been fantastic over the last couple of years. Still got a ways to go, but much better, much more ready to responsibly defend myself, my family when the time comes, based on that training.
So one of the things we've talked about on previous podcasts, Lee Curling brings this up, but good, is the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? So based on what you know now, as opposed to what you knew then, how convinced were you of your capabilities when you got started? And did that change, and what was the kind of things that changed that?
I was really just trying to figure out whether I was Kurt Russell or Val Kilmer at the time.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now, just trying not to be Forrest Gump.
trying to be John McClane.
Trying to be John McClane.
Now
That's
I have
right.
a machine gun.
Now, ho, ho, ho.
ho.
Merry Christmas, by the way. Yeah.
There you go. It's not Christmas. It's not really Christmas until Hans Gruber falls off the tower or until Amanda Hunsacker jumps off the building.
Hey.
Because people don't get Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, very much so.
He's buying fucking Coke in the
But
Christmas shop.
they were going for Die Hard. I mean, they were chasing after the Die Hard huge Christmas success that Die Hard had. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is funny because Die Hard came out in July.
Christmas is always in July too. Don't you listen to the radio?
Well, in California.
Yeah. Well, and
I
Australia.
don't know that they don't have Christianity in California anymore, do they? Communists.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we go down the rabbit hole about the governor of California being Pinochet. Cool. So now of course you're hunting. You came out today. You doped in one of your blackouts, so you can go out and shoot Bambi in the face tomorrow, which would be awesome. Good for you. Hope that works out for you.
Family's got to eat.
Yeah, there you go. Put it in the freezer. And as far as I'm concerned, I kind of agree with Ted Nugent on this one. You don't get any more ethical sitting at the table than eating something that you harvested.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
There's if you put the work in and the work, the ethics, and I know people who don't hunt don't get this, but my whole life that I hunted, there has always been a reverence for the animal that I was harvesting.
Yes, sir.
And a respect for it. And
yes, sir.
People don't understand. People don't get it. I haven't missed grace over a meal since the Gulf War. That's a whole nother story. But part of that, especially ain't something that I've harvested. Is saying thank you that I'm able to nourish myself, nourish my family based on the sacrifice that unwillingly, but sacrifice nonetheless. It's an ethical thing that people don't get.
I'd agree with that. An ethical hunter is going to be in the field. I mean, I've lost birds in the marsh. When I didn't have a dog or watched a bird float away. It's a horrible feeling. It's a sinking feeling because you just took a life, not a human life, but you just took a life that was living, breathing, flying around this world a few minutes ago. You ended it, and now
it's been wasted.
It's been wasted.
Back when I was hunting, I haven't been able to hunt in years because I've been busy with the farm. But
you need to change that, right?
I do. Well, next year when my youngest daughter starts driving, I'll have a little more time, I think. But yeah, so I had come to the conclusion I wouldn't take everybody says, oh, well, you can shoot up to nautical twilight. I would not take first off, I wouldn't take a shot that I didn't know I was going to be able to make. I never risked a shot. But then the other thing was I never took a shot where I was going to have to track in the dark.
Yeah.
Because what I never wanted to risk was through no fault of the animals or through no fault of my own that I'd kill this animal and I wouldn't be able to harvest it because that's just horrible. That's just a waste. I hunted with some guys not very long who had damage stamps for a farm out in Virginia Beach, and they would shoot a deer and backstrap it and walk out.
Wow. And
leave the whole rest of the deer. And they're like, well, the coyotes and the bears and the vultures and shit got to eat. And I was like,
they don't need your help.
I was like, you know what? I quit hunting with those guys.
With good reason, sounds like.
Yeah, fuck them guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's the company you keep, even in that too.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So before we get too far afield on that one, so
another rabbit hole.
Yeah,
sweet.
So when you first started shooting with us, you were, of course, you had all the cool guns. You still have all the cool toys, but
no,
I though? You were carrying like a full size 320, right?
No, actually, that was a later purchase. So my first purchase when I was able to that I carried was a Beretta 96.
That's a big gun.
It was a big gun.
It's a good gun.
In 40 caliber, in 40 Smith & Wesson, and I said, hey, I'm not a small dude, so I'm carrying a big gun, right?
Yeah.
And so that turned into, God, this thing is heavy, and big and hard to walk around anywhere without somebody.
40 cal is a beast to train with.
Oh, dude.
Well, and it's expensive.
Well, so beast to train with, expensive, and that's why I didn't do much shooting when I had it. So upgraded-ish to a Glock 23C, which, was the next best, biggest, greatest thing, and that's actually the gun I've owned the longest at this point. Um, but again, just Glock. Everybody had a Glock, and just Glock's the thing, this, that, and the other. The Glock never fit well. I never enjoyed shooting that gun.
Yeah.
I shot it a lot more. In fact, I got some. I inherited some ammunition from an agency that shall remain nameless, and said ammunition had been exposed to some weather before. So those two ports in the barrel, when I pulled off this one particular round, it went pop.
Oh.
And then there's a little bitty bullet sticking out of the end of that barrel. So I stopped that.
Yeah.
Got away from that compensated barrel because that's a bad day if you're firing quickly.
Yeah.
So went from that to HK.
Mm-hmm.
And with the P30 series, the hammered, P30 full size, P30 compact. I think you remember I first started training with you. I had that P30.
Yep.
The full size ran well, and the compact we were always having trouble with that thing locking back. And
yeah.
Even Mike was looking at it like there was some bad juju on that gun. So we got into the 320, and then man, that 365 is the cat's meow.
Now you've had Mike do some work on that one, right? Did he do the reliability package?
Did the reliability package? Yep. The whole AgDef saw.
It's all polished up and clean.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
If you have a gun and you want to make it better, contact Mike Brini at Firearms Performance Enhancement. They does the reliability package, which essentially is just a really good break-in of the gun. At the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yes.
You just break in all the metal-to-metal surface parts. One of the things that I like about it is there's no non-factory stuff in it.
Correct.
So if it finds its way onto an evidentiary table, and some jackass who went to law school to learn how to bend your words picks up the gun, they go, "Well, isn't this tricked out race gun?" Go, no, that's all factory parts.
Rabbit hole. Scary to me to have to explain to a group of uneducated people who have my future in their hands why I have a Duke Nukem sticker on the gun or some engraved bull crap on it. Right. Now that's not to say I don't want to enhance the performance of my firearm, but I want to do it to the extent that it's reasonable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Factory parts, obviously, I think, but there's some good aftermarket stuff out there that's not.
There is, and there's no doubt about that. And it really, a lot of it comes down to form follows function.
Yes.
Like we were talking about sniper rifles earlier, and how you're not if you're deploying to the sandbox, you're not carrying a railgun as a sniper gun,
Or one with a 2-pound trigger.
Yeah, it's just not going to work out that way. But same reason that DevGru didn't carry 416s into the Hindu Kush. Because when they fail at 5th echelon, which is where they fail, you can't go talk to the Army and get parts for them.
Great idea on paper. It looks fantastic when you flip the box open on back of your pickup.
Yeah.
Is it going to be running at the end of the day after five courses of fire?
I think it probably will. Again, the problem that you run into with is anything that is mechanical will fail at some point in time. So you got to find where that thing's going to fail. And then depending on what you're doing with it, where it fails and how it fails become the issue. As an example, so everybody bitches about, well, the direct impingement AR family, the M16 family, they have a tendency to blow out extractors and locking lugs. That's a breeze of a fix. Most of us carry a spare bolt or a full spare bolt carrier in our kit. If things go to shit in the middle of dog shitistan, you can always, when there's a lull, switch that shit out and go on about your business. But if the fail point on your weapon is always the interface between the piston and the driving system, and you're the only small unit in the entire country carrying that weapon system, then when that fails on you, you cannot go scavenge parts off of somebody else's M16.
Seems like that would be a problem.
And that becomes a problem. Yeah. And that's one of the, it's funny when you talk to, I trained with guys from all over the world when I was working at Blackwater. And so, not a kick or a dig on anybody, but SEALs and Green Berets and PJs, they have all the coolest shit, and they wear Merrill boots, and they carry this, and they carry all this cool shit, and and it's great. And the guys in 22nd SAS don't have any of that. And it's not because they don't have the money. They have a policy that says if it's not part of the standard inventory for the British Army or Marine Corps, British Army or British Marines, we don't use it because wherever the fuck we are, we need parts. And if everybody else is wearing, Danner boots and you're wearing Merrill's and you lose a boot, now what are you going to do, right?
Well,
so it's
if you're worried about style out there,
Yeah.
I guess.
yeah. Well, you gotta
to your point, I had a we were dealing with that Ithaca 37,
Which,
right?
great gun.
Great gun.
Ithaca's been out of business a
For
couple of weeks or so.
time. Yeah. But to your point, I mean that thing. I actually used that duck hunting pretty well. So quick story. I used that duck hunting and had an issue where it would lock back with 2 shells in the mag, and then I'd have to manually release the shell and go, and it became a very nice single shot.
Yeah, like a bolt action shotgun.
Yeah. But this other time, I was out in the marsh, on the Atlantic Ocean on the shore, and my 870, I sat out there for so long that I had a shell get frozen into the chamber. Yeah, it was cold that day.
Yeah.
It was very freaking cold, saltwater freezing. So
Yeah.
I disassembled the 870 in the marsh, found a stick, rammed that shell out of there, and went back to work. Something to be said for just dirt simple, man.
Yeah. Well, and so it's funny you talk about that. So everybody talks about shotguns, and I'm a huge shotgun fan. I lamented when I was on GHPD, and we went away from shotguns and went only to carbines. And I was like, you've taken one of the most versatile tools we've got, and you've given me a hammer. Yeah, you took it like a giant Leatherman, and you gave me a hammer. Right?
That's a nice Leatherman.
Because I'm a big fan of shotguns in general, just because of math. I explain this to folks all the time. When you press the trigger on your M4, if it's in 5.56, you press the trigger, you get one 22 caliber bullet that goes downrange, we'll call 1,700 feet per second, and it weighs somewhere between 55 and 75 grains. That's pretty cool. If you're carrying a 12 gauge and you're carrying number 1 shot, I'm a big fan of number 1 shot.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and here's why. If you're carrying double-aught, you get typically 9 33 caliber 33 grain bullets going down range at about 1,500 feet per second.
30 cal has won plenty of wars.
Yeah, and then you get about an inch spread for every yard past the 18-inch barrel. But if you're carrying number 1 shot, you typically get 16 30 caliber 30 grain bullets going down range at 1,500 feet per second with 1 press of the trigger.
Damn.
So the Marine Corps math on that was like, yeah, if I gotta go into a building, I'm probably only gonna get 1 shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but if you get a really good Remington 870, it rattles a little bit, just like a Sig 226 or a Colt, old school Colt or Singer or Remington Rand or whoever else made them for the military, 1911. They've got built-in slop in them so that if you're out in the marsh or if they're dirty or they're rusty or they're gross or you just swam out of the ocean with them, they still go bang and they still shoot half a minute a bad guy,
which is what you need, right?
Yeah.
You know what gun I own that doesn't rattle when you shake it?
What's that?
That HK.
No HK does not. And HKs are, and I love them, but they are typically Germanically over-engineered.
Oh, it's holding a symphony. It's holding a symphony in your hand.
So then what happens? But because they're the Germans, so what they've done is they go, well, of course it does not rattle. If it rattles, it will not be as accurate. So what we've done is we cut grooves in all of the places so that it doesn't rattle, but it does move all of the water and sand and grit and shit. That's why
I love an Audi. That's why I love an Audi.
Oh yeah, Audis are good cars.
They're so smooth riding down the road. That HK is so smooth.
HKs are nice. Yeah.
But
Adrian Majette, we're talking about HKs.
but that SIG has never failed to fire.
Yeah. And I've said this before. I'm not a striker fired gun kind of guy, but Smith did really well with the M&P series. SIG really knocked it out of the park. I mean, I carried as soon as I didn't have to carry a Glock anymore, I carried a Smith.
There you go.
And now I almost exclusively carry SIGs.
Which kind of blew my mind actually, because I hesitate to buy a gun anymore unless I call someone I know who may or may not be sitting in this room. But I was looking at that 365, and it was such a good deal for that gun. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get this, and then I'll ask Rick later. And then when I asked you, you were carrying that 365X or the macro.
The macro. No, I carry a 365 XL.
XL. There you go. It's a 365 XL. Rick switched guns. What the hell? What happened?
Yeah.
Hey.
So that's my summer gun, and missions have changed. You know, it's been 4 years since I retired as a cop, so I still have Pavlovian responses to things. But the reality of it is, I'm not charging into the fight anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I don't. I have no legal requirement. I have no legal authority to go into harm's way if things go bad. So I probably don't need 18 rounds in the gun and a spare mag and a set of handcuffs, which is something that I used to carry all the time. Don't carry that anymore. Nowadays, I'm carrying defensively, and so it's about providing enough force for me to be able to get off the X and get the fuck out of the way. And the 365 XL carries enough ammo, and for a small gun, the ergonomics on it work in my hand pretty well because I have a decent sized paw. But I carry the shit out of my 320 Nitro that Mike did a bunch of work on.
Which I can't wait to see what magic he's working on my 320. Oh, yeah. Which unfortunately I had to go to some training over the summer. I was gone for about 3 months, and I had one of those little lock boxes, those little vaults that I generally will transport in if I can't carry somewhere, and just leave it secured in a vehicle. So I left the 320 in the safe, and I came back and pulled it out to come out here and try and do some shooting, and you saw what it looked like. Yeah. So I'm not sure how that moisture got in there, but it was definitely there.
Well, so I mean, you stop to think about it. If you're in Tidewater, Virginia, and you close the box full of open cell foam, you've captured some humidity.
We got something in there, that's for sure.
And then they seal up well.
Yeah, they seal up very well. So
then if you go someplace where there's not a lot of humidity, they don't off gas. That's the downside to them.
Well, I mean, it stayed right here, but whatever happened.
Oh, if it stayed here, then yeah.
The oxidization was, yeah.
And now you're getting Cerakoted, right?
I don't think we're gonna have that problem anymore.
No, it's a Cerakoted. What color are you getting?
I think was it the wolf gray?
Bull shark.
Bull shark
gray.
That color.
That's a cool fucking color.
Mike showed me a sample of that.
I like to paint a motorcycle that color.
I have a whole set of vehicles that color. You didn't?
Oh, that's pretty cool. I have a 1911 Series 4 Gold Cup that got jacked up, and it's Mike did it in Elite Concrete, which is a cool fucking color.
Okay.
I really like that.
The bull shark.
Yeah.
We'll see how it turns out, and then we're putting one of those comps on there.
Yeah. So the comp that he developed is just amazing. We're actually going to end up doing a T&E on it, and then we're going to shoot some commercials for him with it, but then we're also going to do a review of it on a podcast.
Nice.
It's going to be it's amazing. I'm not a comp guy, but it works really well. If I were shooting competitively, if I came out of retirement and went back to shooting competitively, I would give serious consideration to shooting an open gun with that on it. And truth to tell, if I were putting together the equipment for a operational team, a law enforcement operational team to do takedown work, not patrol work, but regular takedown, I would give serious consideration to issuing people guns with that comp on it. It really does make a difference.
I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Oh, It's going to be a blast. Pun intended. So, in addition to being a cool shooter and smoking cool cigars and hunting and being an all around American kind of guy, you are also a pilot.
Yes, sir.
So, what's the name of the aircraft company that you work for
Well, the one I work for,
and own? Because you own one too.
I
Right?
own one too.
You're like Juan Tripe over here.
Gosh, man. Store, yeah. Anyway, the one I work for, I actually work for a commercial airline based out of Norfolk,
Cool.
which is a fantastic little setup. Sit at home and wait for the phone to ring kind of thing.
Nice.
But before that, I guess, so I was in the fire department for a number of years, professional fire department here in Tidewater. And I kind of, got to a point where my wife was just having to raise the kids by herself with me being gone for the shifts and then taking overtime shifts because we needed the money. And when I made the switch to aviation, ironically, because it didn't pay enough, so I took out $100,000 in debt and went and learned how to fly an airplane. God, decisions we make. So because we had already been through the schedule thing, I said, well, look, I'm going to go try and find something where I can go to work, I can do this, I can develop my skills, and still be at home at most nights, like the vast majority of nights. And so it turned into an air charter business, actually.
Cool.
So we take small airplanes and we offer high value, inexpensive charters for people flying up and down the East Coast, back and forth to the beach, back and forth to Florida, Georgia, all the way north to Maine sometimes.
Nice.
And we went from when I took over having 5 employees to now we're up to 21.
That's awesome.
4 aircraft and 13 pilots as of last week.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
yeah. So it's moving right along. Adding airplanes this year,
Nice.
assuming the FAA does their job.
Federal government, who knows?
Yeah, stories there too. But then, with the industry the way it is, man, when that right opportunity comes along, you just kind of got to reach out there and grab it. So here I am. If I didn't have the, honest to God, fantastic team I have over at Outer Banks Aviation is the name of our company, man, it would have folded when I left. Don't tell my guys, but it's actually done better since I left than it did when I was there. So, we're going to keep this ball rolling. But, good things coming down the road. That's been a lot of fun. I think earlier we were talking a little bit about finding the edge of the envelope, not just your equipment, but your own personal envelope. And the last couple years, learning to fly and building a business, it seems like I've been on the edge of my personal envelope more days than not. Which is, I feel like that's a good thing. I don't feel like that's a bad thing. At the same time, there's going to come a point where I probably just not rest on my laurels, but maybe not do as much envelope chasing as I'm doing right now. That'll probably come after my kids are all out of college.
That's typically how it works.
Yeah.
I'm at that point. I've got one in college and one in high school, and things are I'm looking 7 years down the road. I go, okay, in 7 years, my kids will all be gone completely. They'll be out of the house and gone and done with college and the whole shebang. So, what am I going to do in 7 years? In 7 years, am I going to need to do all these things? And
whatever you want to do, right?
Hopefully,
whatever you feel like doing. That
Hopefully, I can get up and ride my motorcycle, ride my horse, and shoot my guns.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Cool.
Going back to your original question, you were asking about preparation from then to now, and I think you've told me some stories in the past too that the experience that you have in different areas of your life will all kind of come together and inform other areas. And it's been interesting because I started training with you guys when I was learning to fly, as I was going through and getting my certificates and everything. And the fire department really kicked me in the ass and gave me some discipline and a little bit of thick skin. I think between the flying and the shooting and the intellectual part of the shooting train, or the not shooting, but the self-defense training, kind of honed the edge a little bit, and not saying I'm at all some great shakes or anything, but from a personal standpoint, I feel like I'm in a much better position for having gone through all that stuff than I would have been otherwise.
And one of the things that we've talked about in other training scenarios and podcasts is one of the things that happens, and this is absolutely applicable, especially for flying airplanes, I think, is when you start into an endeavor, especially an endeavor that is inherently dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pay a lot of attention, and you're kind of amped up, and you're kind of keyed up, and then because you're on edge, you kind of have a tendency to overreact and make some bad decisions, right? But then as you gain experience and you gain competence, you gain confidence. And so then as a result of the confidence, you are less likely to make bad decisions because you're not scared. One of the things we used to refer to it as being a fear biter on the police department. You get these guys who are heavy-handed, and it's not because they're an asshole, it's because they're scared. And so they go, oh, there's going to be a fight coming, and then they overreact, and then it goes bad. And then, but as you gain experience, you go, okay, I don't have to hit this guy in the face right now. We can have a conversation. Same thing as a pilot. I would imagine, on climb out, if you lose an engine, you go, okay, we lost an engine. We got to do this. Look for a place to land.
Well,
away you go. As opposed to the first time your flight instructor said, "Okay, we're at 1,000 feet," and boom, just lost your engine. Fuck.
Yeah.
So you sharpen you find out where the edge of your envelope is. You sharpen that edge, and then once you go, well, actually, I have a fairly sharp tool here that I don't necessarily need right now.
Exactly. So we said it again today. I'm out here kind of breaking the holiday rust off some skills, right?
Yeah.
But we said it again. Speed comes from
efficiency.
Okay. We got that drilled in. So there's another question you ask in training. I'll get back to that in a second. One of the things that I say, it depends on the type of airplane you're in. If you're in a single engine, like, okay, what's out in front of me?
Yeah.
Let's go. Light twin, you're like, oh God, I'm going to die because it's a light twin. Those are the worst. Anyway, but if you're in a jet, those things will climb 3,000 feet a minute on one engine with a full load of passengers and fuel.
Yeah.
So different capabilities,
yes.
right? When we were doing our sim training for these jets, they said you got a yellow amber warning caution light, and you got a red blinking warning light, and a real loud alarm. Yeah. And they said the best thing you can do for yourself and your passengers when those lights go off is reach down, grab your coffee cup, take a sip, put it back, and then hit the buttons and go about your business.
Yeah.
How much time do you have to get that next shot off?
Rest of your life.
Comes back full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The worst thing you can do in the air is make a rash decision without taking a minute just to assess. No airplane falls out of the sky unless it loses a wing, and then you probably shouldn't have been in the airplane anyway. You're flying a glider, and there's always somewhere to go when you're in a glider, right?
Yep.
So take your time, figure it out. Usually it's one or maybe two things that you just have to adjust, and you bring it right back and can get the plane on the ground safely.
Yeah.
Which every airplane's guaranteed a landing.
At least
at
once.
some point.
That's right. Yeah. But as we look at all kinds of training, as your competency comes up, as you get comfortable, you are less likely to make rash decisions. And also, one of the things I find is the more you learn and the more comfortable you are, inherently the more you pay attention to shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I have found that I get people who take shooting training with me, and they're 6 months in, and they go, I've started to notice what other people do. And I go, yeah. I never really paid attention to it until I came out and went, oh, I really need to pay attention because I'm carrying a gun. And you go, yeah.
You start to eliminate, 60% of the YouTube channels out there.
Yeah, and then you go, well, you look around, you go, oh, that's a horrible intersection. I'm not even going there. I don't go to work that way. I've realized that place sucks. Before that, I didn't realize it because I just wasn't paying attention. The same thing happens all the time. But yeah, if you are, we'll say 100 feet, 100 feet above the water or 100 feet below the water, and things go bad. In either case, if you panic, it's just going to go to shit on you. Same thing. If you're carrying a gun for defensive purposes and you panic, then you're not defending yourself. You're not going to do any good. And training and pushing your envelope and expanding your skill set so that you feel comfortable and so that you actually know that you can do this is one of the best ways to push panic out of the way.
Yeah, I would agree.
So
I would agree. Most dangerous time in a pilot's life is between 500 and 1,000 hours, because that's when they're finally on their own for the first time without a babysitter. It's different when there's nobody there to back you up. Your first solo, when you get up there that plane takes off a lot quicker, and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
It was a running joke between my flight instructor and I about that, but you're up there and you're flying the plane, and it's all on you, bud. It is all on you, so you better do it right.
Yep. Yeah.
And don't hold daddy's right hand.
That's exactly right. Cool.
Till I start training.
I think this has been a blast. Anything to add? Any rocks, bottles, bombs, hand grenades? Anything you want to put a shout out to Outer Banks Aviation?
Outer Banks Aviation, flyobx.com. Tell your friends, tell your family. We love meeting new people. We love getting you where you need to go and showing you a good time along the way. We do it safely, first and foremost. No sense.
I would imagine you are a pro 2A, pro constitutional organization.
I would go so far as to say that, yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
So you guys are not donating to the Biden campaign, probably.
No, it's pretty safe to say no. But I will say that we've had a great time carrying some duck hunting trips down to the Outer Banks.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so we do have room for gear, and we don't have TSA or fancy restrictions, really.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Just saying.
Not Air America, just more like Air Virginia.
Air Virginia. Well, cool. and not even Air Northern Virginia.
People's Democratic Republic of Loudoun County.
Cool.
Well, thanks a bunch for coming out. We hope you found this entertaining and enjoyable. Welcome to 2024. It's going to be a good year. We're hoping to have some more people other than just me and Lee on. And thanks again for coming out. We'll catch you next time. I don't think anybody's feelings got hurt. So
that was a very reasonable conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So Bursa Thunderers suck.
I will agree with that.
We got to throw that out there just because it's in the name.
And I'll go so far as to say I'd avoid the tourist judge too.
Yeah. El Jefe. Y'all be good. Be safe.
Cheers.
Is the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? So based on what you know now, as opposed to what you knew then, how convinced were you of your capabilities when you got started? And did that change, and what was the kind of things that changed that?
I was really just trying to figure out whether I was Kurt Russell or Val Kilmer at the time.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now, just trying not to be Forrest Gump.